Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Halloween Friday. It means we're brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Fired up, you're hanging out with us. Hopefully that work week is in the rearview mirror. If it's not, we'll get you to the finish line. I'm getting ready to get to the finish line, quite honestly. I got a text about 20 minutes ago that suggested that our Halloween party, our trick-or-treat location, headquarters, is going to be stocked with margaritas. This pleases me because this week deserves some margaritas, and we're going to have some of this a little bit later, but let's do 2 hours of radio first. Bruce Feldman's got a story out on Brian Kelly's last days. We're going to talk about that at 2 o'clock. I am going to have a little bit of fun today picking SEC games against the spread. A lot of today's show is not that much fun, a little bit heavier than normal, but we're going to do it. But I'm going to pick games against the spread at 2:15. Kevin Goslin's got a chance to win the World Series tonight. That'll come up. Preston Guy, TigerBait.com with us in 15 minutes. Just lots and lots and lots of thoughts about what we thought was going to be a quiet week in LSU football, an open day. Not quiet. Maybe the most busy I've ever seen. And so we'll get into it with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Look, we have known since Wednesday when the governor spoke at that press conference that Scott Woodward's time at LSU was coming to an end very, very quickly, and that did happen on Thursday night. The official party line is that the two parted ways amicably. Scott Woodward and LSU decided to go in a different direction. That's what we'll go with. And I think it's important to just now lay out where LSU is. And that starts with what you're parting ways from, and that's Scott Woodward. You know, obviously he's a Baton Rouge guy, Catholic High guy, LSU guy, worked at LSU, built up into the ranks, and then eventually went out to Washington, became their athletic director. He hired Chris Peterson there, which was a monster get for Scott. Then he moved down to Texas A&M, hired Jimbo Fisher, and when Scott Woodward left Texas A&M, things looked really good with Jimbo Fisher. The next year, they went 9-1, and Ross Bjork extended that contract. He also hired Buzz Williams, who did some really good things at Texas A&M before moving on. But he came to LSU, and he came home. And you know, you can talk a lot of ways about Scott's time at LSU. There are a lot of positives. National championships speak for themselves. He hired Kim Mulkey. She won one. He hired Jay Johnson. He won a couple. He hired Jay Clark. He won one. Now, Mulkey was at Baylor. Was that stale? I don't know, but he got her to come home. Jay Johnson was a great find for him out at Arizona. Not a name that I thought a lot about, and I follow college baseball very closely. Jay Johnson won a lot of games, went to Omaha twice at Arizona, so it wasn't like a complete unknown, but it was a phenomenal hire. And Jay Clark was here, and Scott Woodward made him the head coach. But those coaches won championships. On the flip side, there was the saga with Will Wade, and you can kind of split that one down the middle. There are some people that think what Will Wade did in Baton Rouge was embarrassing to the university, was illegal in terms of the rules of college basketball, and needed to be moved on from. There are some that staunchly defend Will Wade. I'll say this. I know that I really enjoyed Will Wade's time as the LSU men's basketball coach. That was really fun. I launched that podcast, and it could be part of the reason I'm sitting here today. I very much enjoyed when Will Wade was here. But Scott Woodward let Will Wade go, and he hired a new basketball coach. And to this point, Matt McMahon hasn't won very much. I'm excited to go watch them play on Wednesday. But to this point, the record is what the record is. He hired Brian Kelly to a $95 million contract. It didn't work. And everyone knows, if you're an athletic director at one of these monster schools and you hire a football coach and it does not work, you can pay for that with your job. That is well known in these circles. Now, plenty of coaches get to hire a couple of plenty of athletic directors get to hire a couple of football coaches. Scott Woodward not afforded that opportunity as LSU and Scott Woodward parted ways. You can ask 5 different LSU fans what they thought about Scott Woodward's run at LSU, and you're going to get 5 different answers. Mine is that I think that Scott did a lot of really good things. My take on athletic directors is this. It's not a Scott Woodward thing. It's just an athletic director thing. Hiring coaches is a monster crapshoot. Huge crapshoot. You just don't know what's going to hit big and what's going to flop. And so I'm not going to hold one individual hire against any athletic director because it's just really hard to do. It's hard to poke holes in Brian Kelly's pre-LSU resume. It really is. But it didn't work. And then you hear people say, well, he's on the hook for all that money. And I'm not as concerned with the financial part of it. It's not my money. I know that there are people that are very concerned with the financial part, and I get that too. Not my money. I'm concerned with the results. I don't care if the coach makes $10 million a year, if the coach makes $3 million a year. What are the results? That's the only thing that matters to me at LSU. And Brian Kelly's results weren't atrocious, but they weren't good enough. And he was let go. I would have kept Scott Woodward because I believe Scott Woodward has great contacts in collegiate athletics. And I believe this deeply. I believe Scott Woodward really cares about LSU. And that means something to me as an LSU alum and as an LSU supporter. I'm not suggesting that's right or wrong. It's how I feel. I like somebody in there that cares. In big money business, there can be people that don't care. We're going to talk about Brian Kelly at the top of hour number 2. He was here at LSU. He was coaching. Do you think that blood was bleeding purple and gold? And look, Ed Ogeron says his does, and the results his last 2 years were terrible. That's not the only thing that matters. But it's a piece to this puzzle that I consider, and I think Scott bled purple and gold, and that bums me out that he's no longer here. But I understand it wasn't perfect. Now, that's the past. That's over. What's now? What's next? And if you heard Brian Kelly's press conference when he took the LSU job, one word reigned the day. Alignment, 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 alignment. You have no alignment now. And that's not because everyone hates each other. That's because no one exists. As I sit in this chair right now, LSU has an interim university president, interim athletic director, and interim head football coach. Okay? That is not a desirable spot. But that's where LSU finds itself. So what happens now? Well, you're gonna have a new president named on Tuesday. So the interim to the interim to the interim is going to be broken up on Tuesday. It's almost ridiculous to say out loud. But that's going to be broken up on Tuesday when you hire a president. And we all believe that's going to be Wade Roos. That's kind of hard to say. A little bit of a tongue twister. Wade Roos. That's likely who's going to be the president come Tuesday. And today at the press conference, which included the chairman of the Board of Supervisors, it included the chair of the athletic committee of the Board of Supervisors and the interim athletic director, the stated mission was that we're going to go find a football coach now. Was there a timeline for the athletic director? No. So what you're going to do is you're going to appoint an interim athletic director that the president, who will take his role on Tuesday, had nothing to do with. He and a committee are going to go hire a football coach that right now does not know who his boss is going to be. You've all listening taken jobs, I'd imagine. There are probably some of you that have been self-employed the entire time, but the vast majority of us have taken jobs. It's really nice to know who your boss is. Really nice to know who you're reporting to. And it's really nice to know that your boss hired you and took a chance on you. And that right now is not going to be the case with the new LSU football coach. Now, it stands to reason that the new president will come in Tuesday, will suggest, hey, committee, keep doing your work there to hire a football coach, but we need to go find an athletic director. And he can go help with that. And maybe you hire an athletic director who will then join the committee to hire the coach. But you see how long it's taking me to explain this, and that creates the potential issues. And I say potential issues because, look, I say this all the time with coaching searches that don't involve this many pieces. The process is not necessarily as important as the outcome. There are plenty of great coaching searches that are done in the dead of the night, that are quiet, that are decisive, that are quick, that are done, that don't work. LSU just did that with Brian Kelly. Nobody was talking about Brian Kelly. It did not take a long time. It was in November, right after LSU played a football game the weekend prior. And the hire was made. It was done. No one knew names that were floated until it was over. And you went and got literally what is going to be a Hall of Fame coach. That's as good a process as you can have. And it didn't work. And at that point, you had a governor and a president and an athletic director that were all on the same page. You had John Bell Edwards, William Tate, and Scott Woodward. And there are plenty of y'all listening to that would go, well, I hate all three of those guys. And that's fine. Politics are politics, but it doesn't take away from the fact that they were all in alignment. They all got along. They all understood each other's roles. They all let each other do their jobs. And it netted a really nicely done coaching search that didn't work. So I'm not here to tell you that this coaching search can't work because you got a bunch of interims all over the place and the hires are out of order. I'm just suggesting more often than not, it's nice when things are in line, and they're not right now. LSU is in a weird spot. And the only thing that most of y'all care about is the result of this head football coaching search. And that's what was the priority in this press conference today. Was it a great press conference? I would suggest probably not. That doesn't matter either. Press conferences aren't on the scoreboard. But what you need to have happen is LSU go hire a really good football coach. And the question that has to be raised is the dysfunction, is the disorganization that is going on with LSU because of all the interims that are lined up and everybody that's been parted ways with or lost their jobs or been elected, that's all very fuzzy. Does the new coach, the new prospective coaches, do they hold that against LSU and decide to go somewhere else? That remains to be seen. I don't know. Burge Audiferi was very adamant today that his phone is ringing, that he believes LSU to be the best job in the country, and he's going to go hire a great football coach. And Verge Osbury has been involved in a lot of coaching searches over the years at LSU. He's been a trusted staffer in that athletic department for decades. So we'll see. We'll see what the result is. At this point, it's just speculation. It's a bumpy start. That doesn't mean it's going to be a bumpy result. But right now, there are a lot of people looking from the outside in at Baton Rouge, in at LSU, and going, I'm not real sure about all this. And there are a lot of layers to it, and we'll get to more of that in 15 minutes when I talk about the week that has been and the quotes that we have gotten and what may or may not be. I'll just leave. We'll do it in 15 minutes. But it's been a wild, wild week down here in Baton Rouge. And right now, full steam ahead trying to go get a football coach. Let's talk about it with Preston Guy when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that's on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. They're on airline at PQ. When you're in the market for a vehicle, consider Genesis. It is a luxury brand at a reasonable price. When I say luxury brand, you should think Genesis. I know there are brands that come up in your mind. Genesis should be one of them. And when I say luxury, don't immediately go, well, can't afford that. Check it out. Might be surprised. Go talk to one of their brand ambassadors, walk the lot, weather's nice and cool now, and see that incredible line of vehicles. All of them, every single model in the line is an IHS top safety pick. All of them. So you know you're behind the wheel of one of the safest cars on the road. You'll get the style. You'll get the comfort. You'll see all those bells and whistles. You'll know you're dealing with wonderful people. It's a first-class experience. A wonderful place. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
There were two quotes in particular today that, when paired with the previous 48 hours of talk from Governor Landry, that I want to talk about in the next segment. So we'll get to that coming up. Right now, we talk to Preston Guy every single week on Fridays, tigerbait.com. He joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Preston, how are we doing?
You know, Hunt, I'm hanging in there. It's been a tumultuous time on the beat, but it's what we're here for.
I'm hopeful there's a cold refreshment in your future, in the near future, this evening as trick-or-treating fires up. There certainly is one in mine.
Man, we'll see. You know, I got Well, I got a 9-month pregnant wife I got to take care of. I'm gonna take it easy on those. So, yeah, no, it'd be really bad to knock down a couple of those and, here it comes.
I've been there. I understand how that goes. All right, well, let's talk about LSU. I don't even know where to start, Preston. Let's start with last weekend, Saturday night and Sunday afternoon. What went through your mind watching both of those play out?
Well, apparently whatever went down in Baton Rouge Saturday night was a terminable offense for everybody who resembled a leader in the city and state. Head coach fired, AD fired. Of course, president already got pushed out. So now LSU is essentially a leaderless institution. And a lot of that could be blamed on that loss to the Aggies. I will say this, being in the stadium, on the field, it felt a little more than a loss. It felt almost like a foreign invasion takeover. I tweeted a video of that Aggie yell after the game, and there was just something harrowing about Texas A&M fans completely taking over your stadium with more fans than you, and just the genuine apathy and acceptance that seemingly came from the LSU sideline. Of course, bad looks of Brian Kelly heading into the locker room, then being dragged out to do the alma mater. It's kind of one of those things where at LSU, you're expected in moments of being challenged like that and in moments of loss, you're expected to have pride intact. That's where you show your mettle. And it certainly seems in that instance, Brian Kelly failed to show such mettle, and that is why he is no longer the football coach of the LSU Tigers.
Was that the right decision?
You know, Hunt, here's the deal. You can talk all you want about finances and all that jazz, but what evidence were you going to get that Brian Kelly would give you something to believe in next season, right? I mean, this is a coach who had every resource. He had everything he needed to put this team together. And, you know, the portal was hot. He had a fifth-year senior quarterback. And like at that point, what more do you need to make the college football playoff? And you were staring at 7-5 in the face, and you were about to lose probably about 16 starters. And who the heck was going to give you money to work a portal after you just wasted everybody's money on a team that's about to go 7-5? So I think if LSU had not fired Brian Kelly, it would have found itself in catastrophic situation this offseason, being that, okay, season ticket prices are going up. Really? You're about to lose 10,000 season ticket holders over this mess because nobody believes in you and they're sick of it. So you look at the finances of losing that kind of income alone, that would have meant bad things for the program. So, yeah, I do understand why they did it. I will say, seeing the fallout that has ensued since the termination, boy, I couldn't have predicted all this going down, but it is what it is.
What have you thought about the week that's been here in South Louisiana?
Yeah, you know, I kind of want to talk, you know, it makes me want to talk as an alumnus rather than, you know, a reporter for once. I know I have to kind of keep that cap on, but, you know, my heart aches in a way that's pretty difficult to describe for my alma mater as a, you know, third-generation alumnus. It's pretty difficult. But it shows a severe lack of leadership in our state. Organization is in disarray. We're getting a mixed bag of truths and mistruths from your governor, who is breaking the, you know, first and foremost rule of college athletics, and that is protect the brand. And right now what's going on is damaging to the brand of LSU in a way. I mean, how many coaches do you think that would be interested in this elite job, possibly top 5 job in the country normally, under normal circumstances, are currently mocking LSU and saying, I ain't taking that? I would imagine we really don't want to know the answer to that. So, you know, I think they have built themselves quite the hole to dig out of, given that there's been, you know, brand damage to the program. And, you know, LSU fans are outraged in a way that the last 6 days, the last time I saw outrage out of this program was the 2012 BCS National Championship. And that's a good thing. No, you should be outraged. You should not accept what you're seeing. The minute your rage subsides into apathy and acceptance, this program is cooked. So, we should continue to see most of that.
So today there's a press conference. Verge Alsbury, interim athletic director, 2 members of the board, including the chairman, and they were very adamant, like, we're going to go find a football coach. We don't have a timeline for the athletic director. President's coming on Tuesday. What do you make of this decision to put Verge there, the committee that's been assembled, and what the process looks like for LSU over the next, call it, 6 weeks?
Well, I do have to say, at least we're seeing some semblance of organization, which we didn't see in the previous, 4 days since Brian Kelly had been fired. There is a committee in place. Looks like another is coming on board once they announce the president on Tuesday. And I'll say this. I don't know. Verge Osbury at least gets it. He played for LSU. He's been here for decades. I don't know how talented he is at identifying coaching talent and being able to bring it in and rally the boosters to buy in on it. So he's got a tough task ahead of him. But I liked a lot of the messaging. A lot of what I was saying just a bit ago, he mentioned how apathy. He mentioned how he gets it. You need to be in the playoffs every year in LSU football. And I would even argue that's a lofty standard even for LSU, because you're going to have some down years every once in a while. Just offset that with a deep playoff run or maybe an SEC championship. You know what I mean? But that certainly should be your average bar. So I liked a lot of what I heard. It certainly sounded more organized and put together than what we've seen from the governor's rambling over the last 48 hours.
Let's briefly touch on the football team that does have to play 4 more games. Frank Wilson's the interim head coach. You heard him speak earlier this week, and he brought a bunch of former players back this week. They're in the open date. What's kind of your big picture thought on the next 4 weeks?
Yeah, I would tell you that what matters more than the wins and losses is how the team conducts itself. Frank Wilson is a guy who is beloved by LSU fans, and he's an elite recruiter, and is a program, a reputation that speaks for itself. That being said, as a head football coach, he's never had a winning season, so I don't know that there's any strong expectations that I'm holding for this team to win any games that they weren't going to win before. Certainly I expect them to beat Western Kentucky. You'd like to see them beat Arkansas, but it's a daunting task to say go out there and win out or anything like that. But ideally, I think the theme that we're all going to see is just how is the pride of the program? How is the securing of the brand? How well are you representing this program? Are you going to go out there and lay an egg and look embarrassing like you did against Texas A&M? Are you going to do like John Trey Kirkland and go out there and say, we fighting Tigers, man. If we got 11, we're going to show up. That's more so what I'm looking for. My expectations are that they go 2-2, but I'll layer in, I also expect Frank and company to represent this program and institution very well.
Preston, we appreciate some time. We'll let you get back to that family, and best of luck to you all. We hopefully will talk next week.
All right, Hunt. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Sounds good. He's Preston Guy, TigerBait.com, with us every single Friday. Our Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Looking to feed a big crew tonight for Halloween. You got some folks coming over to trick or treat and don't want to dirty up the kitchen. You got a lot of stuff going on. You got to get the kids in costumes. Go by Corks. Get one of their big party packs. They've got the big haul. They've got those big trays of catfish and shrimp and shoestring fries. Just get a big mess of corks over there from government between Foster and Jefferson. They are happy to help you out. The menu is online, corksfishandshrimp.com. We'll come back. I want to put kind of a bow on the week that has been, things that have been said, things that were said in the press conference today. It involves the governor. It involves the board of supervisors. It involves a lot of different folks and what was said, what was done, and where things are going. We'll do that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. SwingEasyGCBR.com is the website. They are on Segan at Perkins. Get on by this weekend. Hit some golf shots. You can do it to hang out, drink a couple of cold beers, enjoy some football on television, and hang out with the friends in one of your private bays. You can also go by there and work on your game. It's climate controlled. It's got great technology. You can also turn it on to, I love doing this. You put it on the famous courses from around the world. Pebble Beach is on there. TPC Sawgrass is on there. Bethpage Black is on there. You play a lot of courses from around the world, and it's done in like an hour and 10 minutes for a round. Beats a 5-hour round out there waiting shot to shot at one of the courses around town. Go see them. Segan at Perkins at Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. SwingEasyGCBR.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Chugging along here on this Friday. Hope yours is a good one. Gorgeous Halloween Friday here in the capital city. Looking forward to getting out there, doing a little trick-or-treating. Hopefully you are as well. Got to get to the finish line, and we will certainly get there. It has been a wild week down here in South Louisiana as it pertains to Louisiana State University and our state government, with the top of that state government and the governor. So I want to lay this out here. The governor went on the offensive on Wednesday in that press conference. He was answering a question, yes, but in my estimation was making a statement as well in suggesting that Scott Woodward would not be involved in the coaching search. Why would Scott Woodward not be involved in the coaching search? He's the sitting athletic director. And his answer to that, time and time again, was about the contract and the liability that it put on the state of Louisiana and the taxpayers. This is something that he said in that press conference. It's something he said again on the Pat McAfee show. It's something he said again with Matt yesterday. This has clearly been the biggest issue he has had. He tweeted out the contract on his X account, Twitter account, whatever you want to call it. This is his chief issue with Scott Woodward, that in Brian Kelly's contract, the state and the taxpayers are on the hook for a $53 million buyout. This is the thing that has been his biggest sticking point. His words, not mine. So he goes on with Matt yesterday, and Matt asked him a question, and I want you to listen to these answers that the governor gave. I'm going to play 4 of them for you. I want you to listen to these answers and the way that they are crafted. And this is when you get into politics, which I don't live in that world very often, but it's very, very easy to decipher. So this is Matt asking if there is any precedent for state dollars being paid to buy out a football coach.
Is there any precedent for state tax dollars paying a buyout for a coach?
Well, I don't know. You mean in the country or in the state of Louisiana?
I couldn't find one in the country today, but I was just using Google and AI. But if you know of any, I'd be curious.
No, I don't know, Matt. But here's the most important thing. I have to live in Realville. I have to know who ultimately has to pay the bill if no one does step up. No one came to the mansion and said, hey, I got a $53 million check. Don't worry, Governor, we got this. Let's make that very clear. But what has happened in the past, and certainly we haven't had a price tag this big, but in the past, it had been TAP or somebody else that had come up there and said, hey, we want to make a change in coaching, and we're willing to help offset whatever these costs are. Nobody stepped up.
Okay. So there's pieces to that I want to get to. The first 3 words out of his mouth are, I don't know. I don't know. Those are the first 3 things he said. I don't know if there's any precedent for that. Now, Governor Landry is correct. In that contract, it says that Brian Kelly is bound by LSU and LSU is state funded. We've covered that. He is correct by the letter of the law, and that is what he is leaning on here. Now, he says nobody came with the check to the mansion and says, I got it. Nobody stepped up, as far as he knows. So this is what he's going to lean on. It's the biggest price tag ever, and I'm concerned because the taxpayers, but is there any precedent for that? I don't know. Okay, we get to the next one. He's suggesting that Scott Woodward is not going to be involved in the next coaching hire. He said that. So Matt asked him about whether or not the LSU would have to honor and pay that remainder of his contract, which is over 3 years and over $5 million. So this is the thing he's most concerned about, is the buyout dollars. That's the biggest thing. And this is the governor's answer.
Would you be in favor? So Scott Woodward has 3.5 years remaining on his deal, and the buyout for Scott Woodward would be north of $6 million. Would you be in favor of removing Scott Woodward if it came down to paying a $6 million buyout?
Look, what I'm going to tell you, Matt, is I'm not interested in having Scott Woodward negotiate and pick the next coach. Look, again, I want to look real carefully at how this agent process works.
So he doesn't answer. He doesn't answer the question. Now, he could lean back on with that answer. He could go, well, I'm more concerned with the $53 million buyout as opposed to the $6. And I'm more interested that he doesn't do that negotiation to get us in trouble. And he can lean on that. It's fine. But when the money got flipped about that decision, the guy he doesn't want, well, we don't answer that question. And that's politics. And he doesn't have to answer the question. But I hear it. I hear the no answer. So we'll go to the next one. We talk about Governor Landry brought this up to Matt. Talked about LSU coming hat in hand asking the state for money for facilities and all types of things. So Matt just said, well, did the state fund stadium expansion? Like Governor Landry brought this up. LSU comes to me hat in hand. Well, did the state pay for that? Here's his answer.
What about LSU athletics, however? Because as I understand it, LSU athletics is completely self-generated.
Really? So they built that stadium completely with no tax dollars?
Well, please.
They didn't come to the bond commission to be able to bond the project. I mean, no, Matt. I mean, that's where everybody keeps missing the point. But look, if somebody came to me and said, hey, we need this coach, we're going to pay $100 million, and Matt Moscona is going to put the $100 million up or guarantee the $100 million, that's okay, fine.
Did taxpayer dollars fund stadium expansion?
That's a great question. But I can tell you one thing. Unless they had the cash, they had to bond it. If they went to bond it, they probably went to the bond commission. There is, you know who's on the bond commission? The governor, the Senate president, the speaker, the chairman of revenue, the House chairman of revenue, the House chairman of fiscal affairs, like the lieutenant governor, the secretary of state, the attorney general. Like those are all political people.
So Matt asked the question, well, did that happen? Well, it's a great question. He doesn't answer again because that's not what he wants to talk about. I don't know the answer to the question either, but I didn't bring it up. He doesn't answer the question. This is politics. So Matt asked him if there's any precedent for the state buying out a coach. I don't know. Matt asked him, was there any state funds used in stadium expansion? That's a great question. I don't know. And so he continues to not answer any of the questions. And then he finishes with this answer to Matt.
Is there anything else that we haven't discussed that we need to?
I don't think so, Matt. The only thing I would ask is that if people out there, again, if anybody out there can find any facts of the things that I've said that are not true, I'm happy to look at that. But everything I've done with thorough research, and the only concern I have is to the taxpayers of the state and the fans in Tiger Stadium and the boys. And that's the other thing, too. The thing that's also been missing is there's a group of boys down there that have to put that uniform on, not next weekend, but the next, and play a very, very tough team. And I would love to see everybody rally around them.
So if you heard in the middle of that bite, we're done. He says, this is his quote, everything I've done with very thorough research. Really? Research on what? We don't know if there's any precedent for the state paying out the coach. We don't know if there was taxpayer funds used on the stadium. What are we researching? What thorough research did we do other than looking at the contract? And I've conceded the contract does say that. But we all understand in the sports world how that works. And so now you go to this morning's meeting where the understanding of this entire week's ongoing process is that we're concerned with the state being on the hook for the football coach's buyout. That is the biggest issue Governor Landry brought together. And in the press conference today, a Board of Supervisors member who Governor Landry appointed to the board, John Carmouche, said this about funding coaches' buyouts.
The governor had a right to be concerned, and we're working towards solutions. Everything's on the table. But let me make it clear. The state has never, and the taxpayers have never paid for a coach and never will. So
the state and the taxpayers have never paid for a coach and never will. Governor Landry is talking about this contract, which he's right about, but it's disingenuous. It's a disingenuous argument because the Board of Supervisors, which he helps appoint, and the board member, which he appointed, is telling you it's never going to happen. I'm not here telling you it's an impossibility. I'm telling you that we understand how the athletic department works. LSU has been hiring and firing coaches for a long time. The athletic director's job is to agree to a contract with the coach and make sure the funds are there to either continue to fund it or to pay the buyout. And it's always worked that way. And there's no reason to suggest it would not in this case. None. There's just not. This is being disingenuous, and it's being political. And Governor Landry can point to that contract all he wants, and he will stand on that leg. But let's just live in the world that's actually, he's saying I live in Realville. Well, let's just live in Realville. The boosters pay these buyouts. They pay the NIL deals. They pay the coaches. They help fund the facilities. And the world goes round and round. This hire didn't work. But we don't have to blow everything up because you don't like what the contract says. And then we go one step further before we get to the conclusion here. Verge Alsbury was asked, because the thing that the governor has been saying, said it in the press conference, said it on McAfee, said it with Matt, we've got to change the structure of these contracts. We've got to make sure that they're paid for winning in the results. And we've got to do things very differently. That's what he says. That's what he's been harping on. These contracts, these agents are in collusion with the athletic directors. We've got to do things differently. That's what he says. And then the interim athletic director, which the board of supervisors, which he appoints, was put in front of the microphone today and was asked, hey, do we have to do some things differently with this contract? And here's what Verge Alsbury said.
I've spoken to the board members on side of me right here and other board members, and our job, I was told to get the best football coach there is. And don't worry about that at all. So my thing is, we're going to go out there together as a team, and we get the best contract, get the best coach we have, and whatever it takes to get that person here, we will do.
When he said in the middle of that bite, we don't care about that at all, that's the contract. We don't care about the contract. And that tells me, and I'm reading between the lines here, that the boosters are ready to go get a coach. There will not be a drastic and significant change in terms of the contract for the next coach, because Verge is in charge of going to get the next coach. He's going to be in charge of getting that contract together. And it's not going to change. This all essentially boils down to one thing. The governor did not approve of Scott Woodward in that role, and he set out to make sure that Scott Woodward would not keep that job. And this is the way that he went about doing it. That's my opinion as a talk show host who has sat in this state and watched this happen. And guess what? The governor has the absolute right as an elected official. This state elected Jeff Landry. He can appoint whoever he wants to the board of supervisors. He was elected. And those board members can do whatever they want. Nothing here has been done illegally. No, there's no corruption here. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just suggesting that this whole show that has gone on for 3 days has been disingenuous, and the dots do not connect. The governor has not given ample evidence that there is abundance of state funds headed somewhere it's not supposed to go. He was asked some questions about state funds in other areas and didn't really have an answer, didn't want to answer. And this is the result of a direct contradiction to what he's saying in the press conference today. It's just not that hard to comb through. So LSU may end up in a much better space because of all this. I don't know the future. I can just look at what's gone on here, and it doesn't add up. This whole process doesn't add up. So Scott Woodward's not the athletic director anymore. That we know. And the governor keeps on beating on. And I'm pulling for him. I hope he does great things for the state of Louisiana. I hope the people that are hired at LSU moving forward are phenomenal. But I don't have to buy the last 72 hours. I don't have to buy that. I live in the sports world. I know how all this stuff works. And some of this stuff just doesn't add up. Let's come back and close it out the hour next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
So Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Look, captives, the future of insurance, really the present of insurance. If you haven't looked at a captive and you are a business owner and you've got significant insurance premiums that you're paying, but you've got great loss history and great risk management, you might be a fit for a captive. If you haven't seen that, well, it'd be a great time to contact Jonathan Carver and the Highland Insurance Group to start looking at it, because it can be a complete game changer to your business's bottom line. It can be, but you've got to take a look at it. Not every broker is qualified to go ahead and get you in front of a captive and see if you're a fit for a captive. If yours hasn't shown you that, contact the Highland Insurance Group. They can do it for you. It's a completely different way of looking at your risk management and the expenses that go with that. So contact Jonathan, Highland Insurance Group. They're here in Baton Rouge. You can find them online at highlandig.com, highlandig.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
All right, wrapping up hour number one here, Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp, of course, brings you our Friday shows. We are going to have a little bit of fun in the second hour. I'm going to pick SEC games against the spread. We'll talk Saints and Rams, kind of get the heavy stuff behind us here. But tonight is a big night in Major League Baseball. 7 o'clock, Fox, Game 6. Toronto leads 3-2. They can clinch it tonight. They send their ace to the mound tonight, who we know very well in this neck of the woods. That is, of course, Kevin Gausman. Kevin Gausman's career has been amazing to watch because it started out very, very bumpy. He was called up by the Orioles, who made him a top 10 pick coming out of LSU. And he was 3-5 in that first year, had an ERA north of 5.5. The next year, 7-7 with a 3.57, which was pretty good. He threw 113 innings and struck out 88. Like, he was okay. 4-7 the next year with an ERA well up over 4 again. Then his next 3 years, 9-12, 11-12, and 10-11. And I'm not here to suggest that, like, win-loss is a telling stat about pitchers. It's very antiquated and doesn't tell the story at all. But his ERA throughout that period was north of 4 most of the time. It was 4.25, 4.68, 4.43. Then in 2019, it was 5.72 when he was 3-9. Like, he was 6 years in at that point and just hadn't really cracked the code in Major League Baseball. He threw hard. He was a talented guy. He was a first-round pick. Teams were going to give him a chance, and he got one, obviously, with Baltimore drafted him. Got one with Atlanta as well. Cincinnati took him for a brief period of time, and he didn't pitch there there in 15 games. But then he developed a splitter, and it transformed his entire career. And it's been amazing to watch him because that's not a pitch he had when he was at LSU. He was a fastball, kind of slurvy breaking ball guy who could get by on velocity as a dominant power pitcher in college. But he didn't make this, like, transformation until he was 29 years old. And if you look at from 2021 on, in 2021 with the Giants, he was 14-6 with a 2.81 ERA. The following year in Toronto, he led Major League Baseball in fielding independent pitching, and then he led Major League Baseball also in strikeout to walk ratio at 7-1. That year, in 174 innings, he struck out 205. The next year, at 32 years old, Kevin Gausman led the league in strikeouts, 237. And at 34, he's still the ace of that staff with an ERA at about 3.5. And he's the ace of the team that is knocking on the door of the World Series. And he gets the baseball tonight against a team that is absolutely loaded, that he threw the ball so well against. Now, nobody that's listening to me even knows he threw the ball well on Saturday, because while he was setting down 17 Dodgers in a row, it got bumpy after that. They hit the ball out of the ballpark a little bit. I get it. It wasn't perfect. But he set down 17 in a row at one point while A&M was beating the brakes off of LSU. So that was Saturday night. If you're a Tiger fan and you get back from trick-or-treating tonight, or you're looking to watch something while the kids are coming by and you're handing out candy, Kevin Gausman has a chance to clinch the World Series. I talked to Kevin at Ronnie Rance's at his charity event back in January, and I said, "How you feeling?" I covered Kevin at LSU. I was on the LSU beat for baseball in 2010, 11, 12, 13, and obviously he finished his time at LSU in 2012. The Stony Brook Super Regional was sadly his last start, and it was an amazing day when he came in in game one and closed it, and then came back and started game two against Stony Brook, and it rained and he couldn't throw a breaking ball and they hit the ball out of the ballpark. But I was on the beat, and so I interviewed Kevin twice a week at that point, and so he recognized me, which shocked me. But we chatted for a bit. He said he felt old, and on the baseball card, he's old. 34 years is old, but he's still throwing it awesome. He threw a shutout this year, won 10 games, and is has a chance to do something really special tonight. Kevin still makes his home here in Baton Rouge, and I'm sure we'll be back when this thing wraps up. But he's pitched this thing all the way to the end, and I'm really pulling for him tonight because it's a huge opportunity against a team that features an MVP in Mookie Betts, an MVP in Freddie Freeman, the best player to ever play baseball in Shohei Ohtani. We'll see if they ask him to pitch to Ohtani or just walk him like the Blue Jays have kind of decided to do. But you've also got Kike Hernandez and Teoscar Hernandez. It's just an absolutely ridiculous team the Dodgers are fielding, but a chance for another LSU guy to kind of make a splash. We talked about how great the LSU brand has been, both on the collegiate ranks and in the professional ranks over the last 6 years. And, Gausman was not famous at LSU because LSU didn't go to Omaha while he was here. He's like one of the few guys you can point to that was great at LSU, was a highly talented recruit, came in at LSU and then didn't play in Omaha. But he didn't because he's only here for 2 years. First year LSU missed the postseason altogether. In the second year, Stony Brook got him. But he's an LSU guy, loves LSU, married a girl from LSU, and I'll be pulling for him big time tonight up there in Toronto. Hopefully he can throw it really good. He's going to be posed by a stud. And the Dodgers have Yamamoto ready to go. His ERA in the postseason is 1.57. So Kevin's going to have to throw it good. But good news is his postseason ERA is 2.55. So he's been awesome as well. We'll see how long he goes. These two teams have let their starters go a little bit longer than most. But hopefully Kevin gets it done tonight in Game 6. That's it for hour number 1. If you missed any of it, it was fast moving. There's a lot going on. You can check that out on demand wherever you find your sound. That's at Hunt Palmer Show or on Twitter. At Twitter, I'm just looking at my Twitter and I'm flustered after the week that's been, and there's only 1 hour left to go. You can find it at Hunt on LSU or Hunt on Saints. Speaking of the Saints, we are going to talk Saints in the next segment. We'll pick the Saints and the Rams. My SEC picks against the spread coming up a little bit later as well. So don't go anywhere. We will pause for national headlines for Sports Center. We come back, the final hour of a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Look, it can be something simple like a tub-to-shower conversion in the bathroom, or it can be a full-scale bathroom renovation. David Duvall and his team do it all the time. A lot of folks have that stand-in shower. They got that big jacuzzi. You take that jacuzzi out, make that stand-in shower a closet, and then where that jacuzzi was, you put that gorgeous glass walk-in shower, completely transform your bathroom. Need somebody to handle the floors? David Duvall and his team can do it. Need somebody to handle the vanity with the mirrors and all that goes into that? David Duvall and his team can do it. Soup to nuts, as David said. They can handle it from start to finish and customize it to exactly your specifications. Reach out and chat with them. That doesn't cost a cent. They'll tell you what they can do. They'll tell you what it costs. And if you're looking for financing, they've got it 0% up to 18 months if you qualify. It's One Bath and Closets. You can find them online. It's at OneBathAndClosets.com.